Hey guys, welcome back to the kitchen. Today I have an epic bun recipe as part of our collaboration with Arrowwheat Brown Berry and Arnold Buns. The recipe I'm going to be making today is one of my favorites. It's hoisin sloppy joes with Asian style slaw and crispy onion rings. I'm going to be using the Arnold Sesame bun to make a meal out of these ridiculously addictive and slightly alternative sloppy joe sambos. For really great sloppy joes like these, you want to use buns that are going to give you great taste, texture and flavor. So to start things off, we're going to make up our sloppy joe mixture. And if you've never had sloppy joes, and I have to be honest, I didn't grow up with sloppy joes back in Ireland. These are a sort of an American kids classic. It's basically a sweet, sticky ragu that is served in beautiful, soft buns. And I love adding lots of Asian ingredients to give it more flavor, that umami kick and a bit of spice as well. So to start things off, we're going to add some onions into our frying pan with a little touch of oil. Now get these fried off just until they start to soften down. While they're frying off, add in a little pinch of salt. Give that all a good stir through. Now, alongside our onions, I want to hit that with some aromatics. So I've got some ginger and I have a little bit of garlic. So on both these, we want a nice fine chop. So with a sharp knife, let's just chop on through until we have a nice fine chop on both of these. So once you've run the knife through the ginger and the garlic a few times, you should be left with a very finely chopped mixture that is just full of aromatic flavor. So heat back up on our onions. We're going to scrape this into the pot and we're just going to fry this until it becomes really aromatic in the pan. You should know when it's done, when it starts to smell really vibrant in the kitchen. So straight in with that, and I just love the addition of ginger and garlic to a dish like this because it just powers through with so much more flavor. You could also add some finely chopped red chili if you fancied, but I'm going to add some sriracha sauce a little bit later, so I'm going to keep the heat down low just for the moment. So you only need to fry this off for about 30 seconds or so and you'll start to smell it come alive in the pan. And it's at that point we're going to get in there with our beef mince. For this, as always, try and get the best quality beef mince you can get your hands on. Something with a rich red color like this. Plus, it's got a nice bit of fat running through it, so it's going to add loads of flavor in there too. So pop this straight into the pan. And just with the wooden spoon, make sure this is up at a nice high heat, just until it starts to break up into nice little pieces. Make sure your heat is up nice and high because what happens is when you add that mince in, it brings down the temperature. So if you don't have a nice high heat, you're not going to get that browning we're looking for. And another great little tip to make sure that you get really great flavor out of your mince is that once you've kind of broken up the majority of it, you're going to set it across the pan, get your hand out, stop mixing it, and let that heat catch the base of it. Sometimes if you ever have mince and it's frying off in a pan and it produces a lot of water, it's because there's too much steam and there's too much action happening. So leave it to sit, let that liquid come out, let it cook out, and then get in there and start mixing it up. It's a really great way to get that nice browning action we're looking for, which is going to give you flavor. Now, this is what I'm talking about. You have to take your time in the kitchen to get that browning action. And a good way of knowing that your mince is ready to go on to the next stage is if you listen. There's a sizzle that happens in the pan, and that only comes after the liquid or the excess moisture comes out of the mince and you start to get that sizzle action again. So once it's at this point, it's time for our aromatic sauces. This is a great one to use up Asian store-cupboard ingredients. We're going to go in there with some rice wine vinegar, about a tablespoon or so. This helps to deglaze the bottom of the pan. And you'll notice that liquid that comes out will help you just scrape off any of those brown bits off the base of the pan. To this, we're going to go in there with some soy sauce. And all this liquid we're going to add is going to help you bring together the base of that pan where it's gone nice and gnarly and brown to create a really rich sauce. Hoisin sauce goes in, which is our essential ingredient to these sloppy joes. So get that straight in there. And then it wouldn't be sloppy joes without some tomato ketchup, so a few tablespoons go into the mix as well. Give that a good stir through, and the minute you add those sort of aromatic Asian ingredients, it just starts to smell wonderful in the kitchen. So we're going to cook this out until this becomes quite dark and sticky. You could add a little bit of honey in here, you could add some maple syrup, but ultimately what you're looking for is this really rich and unctuous mix in the pan that's going to fill our beautiful buns. And finally, to bring it all together, we're going to add a good glug of water and let this simmer out until it thickens up and you're left with a really rich and sticky mince mixture that's going to fill our buns. Now, while this is simmering away, we're going to create a very simple slaw to go alongside it. And when you have something that's rich and unctuous like this sloppy Joe mixture is going to be, you need that bite of fresh crunch. And for that, we are going to create it with some carrots, some spring onions, and some cabbage. I'm just going to finely slice them, get them really nice and crunchy, and tossed in a bowl with a little bit of sesame oil. Okay, so now we have all our slaw ingredients. We've got the carrots, we've got the cabbages, and we've got those spring onions, so it's time to add a bit of flavor. For this, we're going in there with a good dollop or so of mayo. We're gonna flavor it up with a little hit of some rice wine vinegar, about a teaspoon or so for that sharpness we're looking for. And then to bring it all together and give it some really gorgeous nutty flavor, we've got some sesame oil being added in here as well. Whoa, that was too much. Only a teaspoon's amount, please. Sometimes you don't realize how quickly those bottles are gonna pour. Okay, get in there and give that a good mix, and you just wanna mix it through until all those veggies are nicely coated all the way through. It's going to be a very sesame slaw, but it'll work out in the end. And I do like my slaw to be nice and crunchy and not to be too heavily laden down with mayo, but I love the addition of sesame oil and the rice wine vinegar here to add a bit of sharpness and that nutty flavor. So that's our slaw looking pretty well mixed at this point. I'm going to taste our sloppy Joe mixture and just make sure we're in the right direction. You can definitely hear it starting to sizzle, so that sauce is kind of thickening at this point. Wow. Okay, it's rich, it's sticky, it actually needs a pinch of salt, and personally I like things to have a good bit of heat in them, so I'm going to add some sriracha sauce just at this point now to add a little touch of heat. You could, like I said, add red chili at the start, but I'm going to add about a tablespoon or so of the sriracha sauce. Just mix that through while it's still on the heat, and you should be left with something that has real bite to it. Now that I've added those ingredients, one last little taste, just to see where we're at. Yeah. Now we've got that hit of heat. That is exactly what I want. Okay, I'm going to turn these off. I have my buns nicely toasted up, so it's time to serve up these sloppy joes. Once you sandwich this together, you have the perfect bun filled with sloppy Joe action. And they don't call it sloppy Joes for no reason. These are meant to be a bit rich, a bit dirty, probably drips down your arm a little bit. That's a good thing. So we're gonna dive in here and see how they taste. Wow, that is just ridiculously addictive. The heat in there from the sriracha, I'm glad I added that. But also you've got that crunch of the slaw, those crispy onions on top, and then that rich umami-filled sloppy Joe mixture. The buns are perfect with it. You've got that toasted sesame action on top, and that is just begging to be eaten. If you want the full recipe, as always, you'll get it in the box below over on my website. Make sure you hit the subscribe button and ring the bell for notifications to know when these videos land. And as always, leave me a comment letting me know if you're gonna try this delicious recipe. This is just devourable. So I'm gonna eat the rest, and I'll see you soon.